On this episode of the LA Business Podcast, we talk to an expert in tokenization, security offerings, and decentralized finance. Let's jump right into this week's episode of the LA Business Podcast.
Welcome to the LA Business Podcast, your destination to hear stories of how businesses grow and scale. I'm Robert Brill, CEO of Brill Media and the host of this podcast. Now, let's jump right into this week's interview.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the LA Business Podcast. Today our guest is Deyev, co-founder and CEO of Stobox. Stobox is a company that provides technology tools and consulting services to streamline all operations with digital assets and tokenized securities. Gene, can you please tell us how you got started with Stobox, and talk to us about how you've grown it, and tell us first what you guys do with more detail.
Yes. First of all, thank you for inviting me, and it's good to be here. So, for the start, we started Stobox 3 years ago. Actually, it was summer, and before that, I've got different backgrounds, including IT and working on the security side with trading operations. So I was traveling around Asia, and this is when most of the blockchain exploded back in 2017. So I was looking at this as an opportunity, and definitely the technology, the decentralized technology, the thing how networks, the blockchain network, how the other networks were evolving, that's something which amazed me personally. So I thought of, okay, let's do something with that. And a lot of people back then doing some ICOs and trying to touch the market were avoiding securities, because if you know, they can be, nowadays there's a lot of types of different tokens, but back then people differentiated between two types of them, kind of utility tokens, where you use it as a token, and there is as a utility token, and basically there is a security which which is should be authorized and should be regulated as a security. But not many people knew that, and everybody tried to kind of avoid securities to be on blockchain. And that's something that we looked at the great opportunity, because there was lack of knowledge, there was lack of competence, and giving my securities background and the trading background, that's something that that we started working on.
Sorry, I'm muted. When you talk about securities versus utility, securities would be like Bitcoin, and utility would be like Ethereum.
No, I say, yeah. When you say, there's a different type. So Bitcoin, there is a lot of argument. What is a Bitcoin? It's a digital asset. It's a way of payment. But now we all know that it's definitely not a security. It doesn't offer you the interest. It's not structured as a security. So by security, we mean a share, a bond, participation certificate, something that provides you with a certain interest within time. So you invest into security and expect certain gains to have. So this in US, there is something that we call a Howey test. And if you pass the Howey test, which means that you definitely should be qualified as a security. And if this is a case, it means that all the regulation and all the kind of actions that you can do with those tokens basically correspond to the securities legislation. And now we're talking not about just one country or one legislation, but how to create and how to manage the swap and the management of those securities globally. And that's actually a challenge. And we know that a lot of companies, first of all, they made a lot of mistakes just by selling unregistered securities. And we know that SEC was very strict and is very strict on such activities from one standpoint. Secondly, the frameworks for securities management are usually regulated, so which makes a bit difficult for just the blockchain fellas to enter that market. So we were very focused on what we did and what we're doing, and that's how we actually started. And today we have Yeah, but that can be a different question. But today we have a lot of thousands of hours of competence working products, and actually we have working clients who are successfully raising and kind of moving the securities from paper-based accounting to blockchain-based accounting.
That's interesting. Okay, tell us the type of companies that work with you, and what's the service that you offer. So it's blockchain based accounting.
Not precisely. Look,
Okay.
there is there is a there's a lot of companies that seek capital, and usually I mean, it depends on on certain jurisdictions. Like in US, there are several entities, several type of companies where tokenization of their shares can be valid, can be realized. For instance, it's like Wyoming C Corps and so on. So the idea is to move from the paper-based accounting of those securities, like a startup. A startup goes on fundraise. What they do, they create an SPA, which is a share purchase agreement in paper, and sign it in paper, and then manage it in paper. But that it's kind of a legacy system comparing to what can be offered. So instead of having a paper accounting of those securities, you can basically shift them and tokenize them. So you say it's not a those units will be living not on my spreadsheet, but rather in a blockchain environment. So I can then easily build uh, certain technologies on top of that, which will allow KYC, AML, and certain regulation processes, and then I will be able uh, to provide the access to those securities to anyone in the world who comply with my criteria, and that's especially with corona issue, which goes throughout the globe, where people cannot physically move, and where most of the operations now going into the web, into the to online, being able to fundraise and to spread and manage and provide attract investors to your company via your smartphone back in your home. That's something which was never before, and I think that's a great game changer. I mean, tokenization is a quite a um, broad term, and a lot of people think that the tokenization is only works for public companies which are already in the market, and we understand that part of the business, but we focus on the private companies. So the guys who not necessarily have to be public. Like, I will give you an example. In real estate, you buy a distressed asset and you would like to attract capital to renovate it and to you know make profits out of that. So where are you going to go for more uh, in some cases, banks or financial institution can be the case, but sometimes crowdfunding works better. So by crowdfunding, I mean that this piece of property can be tokenized, and if the business looks well, people from all over the place can pass the compliance and be a part of that.
So, Gene, let's take a real world example. Let's say there's a company out there and they want to work with you. What's the breakout of how would you initiate a conversation with them? What are the right types of companies that are doing this tokenization of their assets?
Uh, like, looking at the amounts of leads that coming into us, we see that the most market today is the real estate. Uh, Second would be startups, technological startups. Uh, we see people from small medium enterprise in emerging markets. Come to us for the advice how to structure that. So that would be, again, real estates and startups would be, and SMEs would be the most clients.
So let's look at a real estate company. Give us an example of how what a real estate company would come to you to solve.
I would give an example. There is a company, and it's one of the first real estates that has been tokenized. It wasn't done with us, but it's done with a great company in from US, and that piece of real estate is Aspen Resorts. I think it is tokenized. It is traded. So the Aspen Resorts, as the hotel and serviced apartments complex, has been tokenized. So investors came there, invested there via security tokens, and now they're generating profits, and it's, are subject to dividends, and this is the real life example. There are plenty of examples today, and we have.
Let's talk about this Aspen Resorts example. So Aspen Resorts tokenized the hotel, right?
Yeah,
And at that point, what happens? People can buy like tokens
they can buy
in
tokens.
ownership.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's structured as an ownership. They may be structured as the revenue stream, as the revenue share, which means that they don't entitle for the for the property itself, but they entitled for the revenue that it generates. Again, I'm not sure how it's done with Aspen, but it would depend from client to client. And we as Stobox, uh, because we come not only from the technical side of the business, but only from also from the kind of tokenization and the legal kind of management. So understand how to structure that. We have, we're seeing different examples, like where, let's say, we have a case where a company from Georgia ex-CIS country, is tokenizing a real estate complex, and as a revenue share. So you don't buy the property itself, but you buy certain coupon for your monthly dividend payments, or for your quarterly dividend payments.
That's really interesting. So this, I think I found the right website for this Aspen coin. So really, it's a way to raise money in different rather than through like the SEC or something, right? Is that how you should some companies look at this?
I mean, you have to comply with the laws and regulations. So
Sure.
that's the first place. But then, instead of having that fundraising process, in physical terms, you now have it on a blockchain terms, which is much more efficient. And this is only when we say a primary sale. But now we come for the secondary market, and that's something also that amazes us. And a lot of people today look at the crypto from a DeFi standpoint, which is stand for decentralized finance, and we see decentralized protocols, decentralized pieces of software that that acts on a kind of on a blockchain ledger, but then allow different entities, different people, different wallets to kind of buy and sell via that pools of liquidity. They're decentralized, which means that you not only uh, unlock the primary sale for globe people, but you also provide the secondary market for that. And given the fact, and that's, there's a very interesting topics that can be raised, because different legislations say differently, but in general, if you're not, if you're not a third party provider and just a piece of software, you you shouldn't be as you don't comply with certain licenses that you have to comply if you do it manually. So today we see the rise of decentralized technologies and also insecurities, which means that you can sell your security or purchase your security through the decentralized pool. I know many people would find different new words from that from that podcast,
Sure,
but
it's interesting. I've recently been made aware of um of a, I guess, an asset called swap, and
mm,
and so I have very limited understanding of that. But basically, what this one does is, and I put some money into it, and it's, I don't know, it's good so far. Basically, swap allows is going to be the platform that will help monetize data, consumer data across advertising channels, right? So we all use data across the web, and I had to like take some steps to like create, like merge Ethereum, a little bit of my Ethereum, and connect it with my swap, and that created some type of thing for staking. I did staking for
absolutely.
the first time ever, and like I've now almost doubled the amount of coins that I have, which is really good in like 3 months. It's fascinating. Like it presents a whole new world of opportunity for business people and investors to raise money. How how did you attract? How do you, you mentioned you have leads coming in. How do you get people to be aware of your business in such a very niche space?
That's a good question. I mean, first of all, we walk the talk. So whatever we offer is something that already happened to us. So first of all, our shares and our mother company, our main company, is registered in U.S. Wyoming, where tokenization. Wyoming is one of the very advanced states in respect to blockchain legislation, and we knowing that we actually open up a company there, and we have tokenized our shares, our class A, class B shares, and put them on the our dashboard on the software where we manage those. So anybody can go in, pass KYC, and actually be a part of Stobox. And now once the swap function will be available, you can come on the secondary market and use that for, to buy or to sell regardlessly. So by launching this and by being the first ones, let's say, because there's a lot of nuances. There's a legal nuances, there are technical nuances, there are operational nuances, and we, to be better, we not only just say that we provide the services, we actually run that on ourselves, see how it works, and we have investors from different parts of the world, from US, from Japan, from CIS countries. So we make sure that everything goes compliant, but that's something we can show to people. And when we started that approach, we see more and more curious people. Just it's kind of from a business curiosity. We see rich guys coming to us and say, listen guys, how you do this? We're very interested, not only just to earn or to fundraise. We're interesting how things evolve, and you are at the kind of avant-garde of what's going on the decentralized dash security side. So can you please, and we're happy to share the knowledge, and this is how our consulting arm kind of moves on, because every day we have to analyze what's going on in the world, analyze the legislation, the technical side of the business, and we walk the whatever we do. So I think it's an ongoing evolution of as of today. So it's a very new market.
So basically, you're saying that people find you through organic search, and they look you up, and they're really interested in learning more about what you do because you're doing you're practicing the work that you're selling as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We again, given the fact that we started 3 years ago, I never thought of transforming that into a tech company. So I thought of, okay, let's see how it goes. Let's understand the market and see how we can benefit, and how we can, benefit the market and create the benefits for us. But a year ago, actually, it was back in July 2020. I thought that and our team of co-founders, and now actually we're more than 50 people around the
Mhm.
world working both full-time and part-time on Stobox, different products. And last year we thought of, okay, we just can't basically move on without our proprietary technologies. And from then we start building. So what we are having at the moment is that actually a last step of what we can offer, because the technical framework, the software that actually accounting tokens and is is something that that is easy to digest and to manage. But to come there initially, to be able to look at this software and kind of invent that software, that actually comes from the knowledge which we were gaining, past. It's actually the knowledge which we gain throughout our lives.
So what does the future of tokenization look like in your opinion? I mean, there's so many places it can go. It changes finance. Tell us about the future of tokenization as you see it.
uh, I'm all in for that. I'm fully committed. We First of all, we have products that help tokenize securities, and that's a bit differently. Then we see how the world of asset tokenization, NFTs, look how art moves to blockchain, how payments move to blockchain. We see a new legislation coming from different parts of the world saying that we have to structure that. And it depends upon certain jurisdictions, like, for example, US, with that recent bill which was issued 3 or 4 days ago. We definitely know that digital assets will be and are qualified as a financial asset. So we'll see the market, which will be more regulated in the long run, actually medium to long run. Which so the entrance of into that market, the barriers to entry to that market will be rising abnormally within, I think, next 3 to 5 years in all the countries, uh, with the kind of civilized financial system. So I think that and that also, if I remember correct, that would also a quote from the SEC chairman saying that within the next decade, all securities will be transferred to blockchain. First of all, it's easy to manage, it's easy to monitor. The resiliency and the security of the system make sure you will never find, that that unknown 10% of your company in somewhere that it shouldn't be. So the level of fraud could be eliminated up to zero. I mean, dramatically, because
Mm.
now the blockchains. So everybody wants to move there. It's easier. It's just an evolution, and we see that as an evolution. So we try to build our vision and to build our products in a way that we could manage and kind of cope to some of the demand that is emergingly growing for that, businesses, technologies, and we see it, in different parts of the world with different assets.
Could you talk about tokenization from the consumer perspective? Like, just what will an everyday person who maybe isn't an expert in blockchain, but like if you look at me, right? Like, I'm not an expert in blockchain and crypto and all that stuff, but you know, I understand the very very basic premises of it. As an enthusiast, I'm really interested in using blockchain and tokenization for raising money, to earn money, to earn interest, to buy things and change the way contracts are set up. How to consumer From the consumer perspective, what does that look like over the next 5 or 10 years?
I would give you an example, um, like with an ice cream shop. Like, imagine you walk out your house and you see a new branded ice cream shop. You go there, you buy an ice cream, and you pay via a downloaded app, and they know that you like certain flavor and they know how much you spend. You come there every day, and upon a certain time, of you become you're so loyal that their loyalty program would distribute a certain token to you. And that token can give you a right, let's say a voting right, a certain rights, a dividend rights, different type of rights. But maybe tomorrow, when you'll be buying and inviting your friends to buy ice cream from that particular shop, you'll be starting earning revenue. At some point, when that specific that particular business would like to open a new branch somewhere, they might ask you if you guys want where you guys want to have a new branch, and you'll be a voting. You can become a part of that business. So, and that's a creation of different business models, so which actually were never there. And they this the, the differentiations of different types of things which can be done with loyalty points, with securities, with how you can transform your customers into stakeholders, not just shareholders but stakeholders, and then you manage your business within them, because I think that those clients uh, can be your best investors. You can leverage their potential and ask them, guys, how should I develop the business? I mean, giving the fact that regardless any business, but with that example of an ice cream, that could be uh, a series of shops that are driven from the community, where people would like to have certain flavors and certain locations. And again, and that was never before, because you can't manage this unless you have a decentralized blockchain technologies at the core of that applications. And this is just one example.
So it's basically like micro, like in gaming, micro transactions, the ability to manage a lot of small contact points in aggregate for the opportunity to either share revenue or share voting rights. That's really interesting. I've heard about that type of situation, but it never clicked the way you explained it to me with the ice cream shop.
I would give another example.
Yeah, sure.
There is a lot of startups, and we know that most of them go through the VC channel, and most of them, they never make it. They never make to IPO. But at the same time, they could be good businesses, and you not necessarily have to have X 500 on your return on investment, because VCs do have to, because the percentage of the startup companies that go from seed round to IPO is less than 1%. But what happens to the rest of the business? So those businesses, they can be good, and you as an investor potentially can be interested in them. So what happens if it's a paper based? You just buy a contract, and you sit with that contract, and it's absolutely illiquid. But imagine if that startup uses a DeFi, decentralized finance tool, swap tool, where you can basically add your position or sell your position. So you don't necessarily have to wait 7, 5, 10 years until the company goes to IPO or even never makes there. But your investment, today's investment, can become liquid within very short period of time. And that not only comes for you, it comes for all of the investors, which now creates a different different vehicle, financial vehicle for the company. Given the fact that those two models with the ice cream and that startup can work within one company, you can understand how that technology can create an alternative to traditional VC financing, where crowd finance, and now what happened with the stop what's the name GameStop is guys from Reddit, from community. They basically play with shares, and now it's on the not. I think now it's more money coming to the main street rather than Wall Street, and that's the technology to capture that.
Yeah, and AMC shares as well, which I bought and sold, and I made some profit on that as well. Interesting, interesting. What does the next year and a half look like for your business? What are you focusing on?
Um, technology, technology, because first of all, I mean, there's a different things that we have to point out. First of all, in terms of the product, there's so many changes going on outside, uh, and we are being influenced by those changes. So we have to adapt to that change and build our own kind of way to, because it's an innovation. You have to build uh, every day. You never stop with that. So that's, we have to focus regardless what's going on. The second, the second main thing is obviously clients and traction, and this is something that we we look at this, again. We first of all have to capture, and secondly, because we take our clients by, in hands and walk from the first step, which is kind of a feasibility assessment, if they need that, how it could be structured. So we try to answer all of the questions, how tokenization will benefit that business, and and take these companies from the advice to the success point, and that may take up to from 6 to 12 months. So for us, uh, our traction is not just numbers. For us, it's how people benefit from our technology and from our involvement. So, and that's very important, because even though we're technology providers, we are at the same time, we're kind of responsible for the success of our clients, because nobody would like to move into the space where there is no previous perfect success cases. And and this is the most challenging, because you have to build the whole pipeline from the understanding to the, let's call it, to management and secondary trading. We have to
Sure.
build the processes which people have to digest, because at the end of the day, it's people who use it. And if you're not a DeFi expert, if you're saying MetaMask for the first time in your life, and most of the corporate guys never got the a feeling of that, you have to build processes. You have to teach them, and in order to scale, you have to create a system, a scalable system, where, and this is, I think, man, this is something that will take us a year or so. And it's a never-ending process. So on one hand, we will develop the tech, and on the other, we will create a better and more efficient processes, so um, you know we can scale at further stages of the development.
Awesome. Gene Deyev, CEO and co-founder of Stobox. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having and for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the LA Business Podcast. If you like what we're doing on this podcast, please consider subscribing on Apple or Google Play, leaving a 5-star review, and sharing with your friends. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations for a guest you'd like to hear on this podcast, please email me, robert@brillmedia.co. Thank you. Have a fantastic day.